My name is Emma. I am 32 years old. I live in a small town in Ohio, in the United States. I work at a local school as a cleaner. My daughter's name is Mia. She is 6 years old. I was married to Tom for 8 years. When I met Tom, I was only 23. He had a big smile and kind eyes. He worked at a car repair shop. He made jokes. He made me laugh. I thought, he is the one. We got married after 1 year. At the beginning, it felt like a dream. We lived in a small house. We didn't have much, but we were happy. We watched movies on the couch. We shared one blanket. We danced in the kitchen on rainy days. Then Mia was born. She was small and soft, with brown eyes just like Tom. The first time Tom held her, he cried. "She's perfect," he said. I believed him, but things started to change. Tom worked longer hours. He came home late. He didn't smile much. He said he was tired. He didn't hold Mia anymore. He didn't talk to me like before. One night, I made his favorite dinner, chicken and mashed potatoes. When he came home, I said, "I made this for you." He looked at the food and said, "I already ate." I felt something heavy in my heart. I sat down. I didn't eat either. The next week, I asked, "Do you want to go for a walk with Mia?" He said, "You go. I need rest." Mia looked at him and said, "Daddy, come too." He didn't even answer. Mia took my hand. We went alone. Sometimes I heard him talking on the phone in the bathroom. His voice was soft. It was not how he talked to me anymore. When I asked, "Who were you talking to?" he said, "Just a friend." But I knew. One morning, I saw a message on his phone. It said, "I miss you. Can't wait to see you again." My hands were cold. My heart beat fast. I didn't know what to say. He came out of the shower. I looked at him and said, "Who is she?" He didn't answer. I asked again, "Tom, who is she?" He said, "Don't make a scene." I said, "I saw the message." He looked at me and said, "It's not what you think." But it was. I could feel it in my bones. That night, he didn't come home. I told Mia, "Daddy is working late." She said, "Okay, Mommy," and hugged me. I cried in the kitchen after she went to bed. I cried so quietly I could hear the clock ticking. 2 days later, Tom came back. He looked tired. I asked, "Where were you?" He said, "I needed space." I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something, but I didn't. I just said, "Are you coming back home now?" He said, "I don't know." He left again the next day. Mia asked, "Where's Daddy?" I said, "He is busy." She looked sad. She hugged her teddy bear and said, "I miss him." I smiled and said, "Me too." But inside, I felt like something was breaking. The days were quiet after that. I went to work. I came home. I helped Mia with her school. I cooked. I cleaned. I waited. One Saturday morning, I heard a knock on the door. I opened it. It was Tom. He said, "I'm taking my things." I said, "You're leaving?" He said, It's better this way. I felt like the floor was moving. I wanted to fall. I asked, "Is there someone else?" He looked away and said nothing. That was my answer. I watched him pack his clothes. Mia stood in the hallway as she said, "Daddy?" He looked at her and said, "Daddy has to go." She ran to me and held my leg. I held her close. When he closed the door behind him, the house felt colder. I sat on the floor and cried. Mia sat next to me. She touched my face and said, "Don't cry, Mommy." I held her and said, "I'm trying not to." She kissed my cheek and said, "I'll take care of you." That night, I didn't sleep much. I looked at the empty space in the bed. I looked at the pictures on the wall. I saw the wedding photo. I saw the family photo from the zoo. I took them down. The next morning, I made breakfast. Mia helped me crack the eggs. She dropped one, and it broke on the floor. We both laughed. It was the first laugh in days. After breakfast, we went for a walk. The sky was blue. Mia picked a yellow flower and gave it to me. "This is for you," she said. I said, "Thank you, my little sunshine." She smiled. I looked at her and thought, I still have love. I still have something beautiful. At night, I read her a story. She fell asleep holding my hand. I stayed in bed next to her. I watched her breathe. I whispered, "You're the reason I can keep going." The next few weeks were hard. I felt tired all the time. People at work asked, "Are you okay?" I just said, "I'm fine." But I wasn't. Bills were hard to pay. I had to call the electric company to ask for more time. I felt ashamed. I looked at the numbers again and again, but there wasn't enough. One day I cried in the bathroom at work. I didn't want anyone to see, but that night, Mia gave me a drawing. It showed me and her holding hands, standing under a big sun. She wrote, "Me and Mommy, I love you." I cried again, but it was different this time. I felt something inside me say, "You can do this." For her. I started to wake up early. I made lunches with notes inside. "Have a happy day, love, Mommy," I sang while cooking. I danced in the kitchen again, just a little. Mia laughed and said, "Mommy, you're silly." I smiled and said, "I missed being silly." Some nights were still hard. Some nights I still cried. But Mia always held my hand in her sleep, and little by little, I began to feel hope again. Before I share the rest of my story, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from? Sometimes I wonder if someone out there truly hears me, someone who understands what I'm feeling. It gives me strength to know I'm not alone. So please, tell me in the comments. One evening, Mia was drawing on the floor. I sat at the table with a cup of tea. The room was quiet. I looked at her and said, "Mia, how was school today?" She smiled and said, "I got a gold star for reading." I clapped my hands. "That's wonderful!" She got up and ran to me. "I want to read to you, Mommy." She sat on my lap and opened her book. Her small voice filled the room. I closed my eyes and listened. I felt warm inside. After she finished, she looked up and said, "Did I read good?" I said, "You read perfectly." She hugged me tight. That night, I sat alone after she went to sleep. I thought about the future. I knew I had to be strong, not just for her, but for myself too. The next morning, I spoke to my boss. Her name was Linda. I said, "Do you have more hours for me? I need extra work." She looked at me kindly and said, "Let me see what I can do." 2 days later, she gave me 3 more hours a week. It wasn't much, but it helped. Mia and I made a chart at home. We called it Happy Things. Every evening we wrote one thing that made us smile. One day she wrote, "Mommy made pancakes." Another day, "We saw a rainbow." I wrote, "Mia gave me a hug before work." Our little wall filled with paper hearts and stars. It made the room feel full of light. One Saturday, we went to the park. Mia ran to the swings. I sat on a bench. A woman next to me said, "Is that your daughter?" I said, "Yes." She smiled. "She's full of joy." I smiled too. "She keeps me going." The woman said her name was Anna. She worked at the library. She told me they had a reading club for kids. "Would Mia like to join?" she asked. I said, "Yes." She would love that. The next week, I took Mia to the library. She was shy at first, but soon she was reading with 2 other girls. They laughed and pointed at the pictures in the books. Anna walked over and said, "You can sit with the other moms if you like." I said, "Okay." There were 3 other women. They were kind. They asked about Mia, about my work, and even invited me for coffee next time. That night, Mia said, "I made new friends." I said, "So did I." We both smiled, but not all days were good. One evening, Tom called. I looked at the phone. My hands felt cold. I picked up. "Hello?" He said, "How's Mia?" I said, "She's fine." He said, "I want to see her." I didn't know what to say. I asked, "Why now?" He said, "I miss her." I stayed quiet. Then I said, "She's happy. Please don't hurt her again." He said, "I won't." We met at the park. Tom looked tired. He brought a small teddy bear. Mia ran to me and said, "Is Daddy coming today?" I said, "Yes." She looked surprised. When Tom came, she looked at him and said, "Where have you been?" He sat down and said, "I'm sorry, Mia." She didn't smile. She took the teddy bear and held it, but didn't hug him. She said, "Mommy makes me pancakes. Do you?" He didn't answer. After 20 minutes, she came to me and said, "Can we go now?" I said, "Yes." Tom watched us walk away. He didn't say anything. Later that night, Mia asked, "Is Daddy staying now?" I said, "I don't know." She looked at me and said, "It's okay, Mommy. I have you." I kissed her forehead and whispered, "And I have you." Some nights I still felt pain. I still remembered the day he walked out. I still remembered how small I felt. But those memories didn't hurt as much now. I started saving money. A little each week. I kept the coins in a glass jar. Mia wrote on it with a sticker, "Mommy's dream." I didn't know what the dream was yet, but I smiled every time I dropped a coin inside. At work, Linda said, "You've been doing a great job, Emma." There's a part-time spot in the front office. Would you like to try? I said, Me? Really? She said, Yes. You're kind. You're careful. I believe in you. I almost cried, and I said, Thank you. I will do my best. The office work was different. I answered phones, gave out visitor passes, and helped the kids when they lost their jackets or forgot their lunch. It felt good to do something new. I told Mia about it. She said, Are you still cleaning? I said, Not as much now. I help in the front. She clapped her hands and said, You're moving up, Mommy. That weekend, we baked cookies together. The kitchen was full of flour and laughter. We burned one tray, but we didn't care. We sat on the floor, eating warm cookies, and Mia said, This is the best day ever. I smiled. Mine too. One night, I looked at old pictures on my phone. There were many with Tom. I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I felt done. I deleted them. I kept only the ones with Mia. I looked at our new photos, her on the swing, me holding her hand, her first library day, the drawings she made of us. That was my real life now. One morning, I opened my journal and wrote, I am proud of myself. I didn't think I'd ever write those words, but I did. I even wrote it twice. 3 months passed. Mia's hair grew longer. She asked me to braid it every morning. I was not very good at it, but she said, It looks perfect, Mommy. Each time my heart felt full. One day as we walked to school, she said, I want to be like you when I grow up. I smiled. Why? She said, Because you're brave. I didn't know what to say. I looked at her little face and whispered, You're the reason I try. That day at work, I thought about her words. You're brave. Was I? I had cried many nights. I had felt broken. I had wanted to give up, but I didn't. I kept going. For Mia. And now, also for me. Tom still called sometimes. He wanted to see Mia more. I said, If you want to see her, be better. He asked, Better how? I said, Be there. Not just for 1 hour. Not just with gifts. Be there when she's tired. When she's sick. When she wants to talk. He said, I don't know how. I said, Then learn. She's worth it. He stayed quiet. Then he said, You've changed. I said, Yes. I had to. Later that evening, I told Mia, Daddy might come this weekend. She looked at me and asked, Do you think he'll stay this time? I said, I don't know, baby. She said, That's okay. I still have you. I hugged her tight. That weekend, Tom came to pick her up. He brought coloring books and snacks. Mia went with him. I watched from the window as they walked to his car. I felt nervous. I felt scared. But when she came back in the evening, she was smiling. She said, We went to the zoo. I said, Really? She nodded and said, He even made silly animal sounds. We both laughed. I was glad she had fun. I didn't know how long it would last, but for now, she was happy. That was enough. That night, she said, You should open your dream shop, Mommy. I smiled. One day, she said, what would you sell? I said, books, coffee, and maybe cookies. She said, can I help? I said, you can be the boss. She laughed. No, you're the boss. We both giggled. A week later, Linda at work gave me a small envelope. She said, this is for you. I opened it. Inside was a card. It said, you are doing amazing. And there was a $50 gift card for a local cafe. I looked at her with wide eyes. She said, you inspire people more than you know. I felt tears in my eyes. That weekend, Mia and I went to that cafe. It was small and warm. There were books on the shelves and soft music playing. Mia looked around and said, it feels like your dream. I nodded. We shared a sandwich and hot chocolate. She looked at me and said, I want to come here every week. I said, me too. When we got home, I pulled out the glass jar. It was almost full now. I looked at Mia and said, maybe we can start our own tiny coffee corner at home. She jumped up. Yes! We cleaned a small table in the living room. We put 2 cups, her toy cash register, and some of her storybooks on the shelf. She made a sign that said, Mia and Mommy's Cafe. That night, we opened our cafe. She took my order and made coffee with water and a toy spoon. I laughed so much that my cheeks hurt. We sat down with real cookies and said, cheers! She said, this is the best cafe ever. I said, because you're here. The next day, I bought a notebook. On the first page, I wrote, my dream is real, even in small steps. I started writing more. Small goals, simple plans, drawings of what our real cafe could look like one day. I showed it to Mia. She clapped and said, you're doing it. I said, we're doing it. One evening, I got a message from Tom. He wrote, thank you for being strong. I see now what I lost. I didn't reply. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I just felt peaceful. That night, as I lay in bed, Mia slept beside me, holding my hand. I whispered, thank you, my sweet girl. You gave me back my heart. She didn't hear me, but maybe her heart did. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon. My name is Emily. I am 24 years old. For many years, I did not feel good about myself. I finished school, but I did not go to college. I looked for a job, but most places said no. I stayed at home for a long time. Some people said I was lazy, but I was not. I just did not know where to begin. One day, my brother told me about a job. His friend worked at an office. The company needed an assistant. I did not know much about computers. I was scared to try, but my brother told me, just go. Do your best. So I went for the interview. The office was quiet and clean. The people looked busy. I waited in the hall. After a few minutes, a man came out. He was tall and wore glasses. He looked kind. Hello, he said. I'm David. Please come in. I followed him into a small room. He looked at my paper. It was short. I only had one job before. It was at a food shop, but I left after 2 months. I thought he would say no, but he just smiled and asked, "Are you ready to learn?" I said yes. My hands were cold and I was shaking a little. "You can start next Monday," he said. I was shocked. I asked, "Really?" He laughed and said, "Yes. We all start somewhere." My first day at the job was not easy. I did not understand many things. I forgot names. I made some small mistakes. My hands moved too slow. I was too shy to ask for help. At lunch, I sat alone at my desk. I thought I would not last 1 week. But Mr. David was different. He walked past my desk and said, "You are doing fine. It takes time." I looked up at him. No one had said those words to me before. Not at school. Not at home. After 2 weeks, he gave me a small task. I had to check a list on the computer. I did not know how to do it. I made a mistake and changed the wrong line. I wanted to cry. I thought he would be angry, but Mr. David called me to his office. He pointed at the screen. "It's okay," he said. "Let's fix it together." He showed me what to do. He did not shout. He did not look upset. I felt warm inside. For the first time, I did not feel stupid. I worked hard every day. I came early. I stayed late. I asked more questions. He gave me more tasks. He always said thank you. His words made me feel strong. I wanted to do better, not for him, but for myself. After 3 months, I started to feel different. I smiled more. I walked with my head up. I could finish my work on time. I helped new workers find things. One day he asked me to make a report. I did not know how. But he said, "I believe you can." I stayed late that day. I searched and typed and checked everything twice. The next morning, I gave him the report. My hands were shaking. He looked at it and said, "Good work." I smiled all day. It was just 2 words, but they meant the world to me. Some people in the office talked fast and laughed a lot. I still felt shy around them. I did not know what to say, but I was not afraid of Mr. David. He spoke in a calm voice. He looked people in the eye. He never made me feel small. One afternoon, he asked if I could come to a team meeting. I was quiet in the room. I just listened. But after the meeting, he said, "Your job matters. You help the team, even if you don't see it." I held those words close to my heart. At home, my parents saw the change. "You look happy," my mother said. I told her about the office, about Mr. David. She smiled and said, "You needed someone to believe in you." Week by week, I grew more confident. I stopped saying sorry all the time. I learned to ask when I didn't know. I learned to fix my own mistakes. One day, I was alone at the front desk. A client came in and asked hard questions. I answered them all. Later, Mr. David said, You handled that very well." I went home and cried, but it was not from sadness. It was something else. Something good. Mr. David never talked about his own life, but he always made time for his team. He remembered birthdays. He asked about your weekend. He gave advice, but only if you asked. He was the kind of boss that made you want to work harder. After 6 months, he asked me to join a new project. It was about finding ways to help the team work better. I did not know why he picked me. I was not smart like the others. I did not have a degree. I told him that. But he looked at me and said, "You care. That's rare." That night, I could not sleep. I thought about those words over and over again. I never thought I had something special. Now, I wanted to find out what I could really do. One day, he showed me a file and said, "Can you try this?" It was a planning job. It looked hard, but I said yes. I made a plan. Then I changed it. Then I changed it again. I was scared it was not good enough, but I gave it to him. He read it and said, "I like this. Let's try your way." I did not know what to say. I just nodded. After he left, I smiled to myself. That smile stayed with me for a long time. At the end of the year, the company had a small party. They gave awards to some workers. I did not expect anything. I was just happy to be there. Then they said my name. I walked to the front. Mr. David was waiting with a small box. "For your hard work and growth," he said. People clapped. I looked at him. He smiled and said, "I told you. You could do it." I held the box close. I did not care what was inside. I cared about the moment. I cared about what it meant. I was not the shy girl from before. I was still learning, but I had come far. I knew that now. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next week at work felt different. People smiled at me more. Some said, "Good job at the party." Others asked for my help. I did not feel small anymore. I was part of the team now. I liked the feeling. Mr. David gave me more tasks. Some were hard, but I tried my best. When I didn't know something, I asked. When I made a mistake, I fixed it. I did not feel scared to try. I knew he believed in me. One morning, he called me into his office. He said, "We're starting a new project. I want you to help." I was surprised. I asked, "Me?" He nodded and smiled. "Yes, you. You know this work. You care. And I trust you." The project was to help the office run better. I had to check what people needed and write a list of ideas. I asked the team questions. I listened to them. Some people were quiet at first, but then they talked. I wrote everything down. Every Friday, I showed my notes to Mr. David. He gave feedback, but he never made me feel bad. He said, "You see things other people miss." That made me proud. One day, I stayed late to finish a report. The office was quiet. It was dark outside. Mr. David came by and saw me still working. "You should go home," he said. I smiled and said, "Almost done." He looked at the paper and said, "You've come far, Emily. I'm proud of you." No one had said that to me before. Not like that. Not in a real way. The next week, he asked me to help train a new worker. Her name was Anna. She was shy, like I used to be. She sat at her desk and didn't talk much. I remembered how that felt. I walked over and said, "Hi, I'm Emily. If you need help, I'm here." She smiled a little and said, "Thank you." I showed her how to do small tasks. I told her it was okay to make mistakes. "I made a lot," I said. She laughed. We started to talk more. She asked questions. I helped her when she felt lost. She said, "You're kind." That made me happy. I told Mr. David that Anna was doing well. He said, "She's lucky to have you." I felt proud again. Later that month, something changed in the office. Mr. David looked tired. He worked long hours. He smiled less. One day I asked, "Are you okay?" He said, "Just busy." But I could see it in his eyes. Something was not right. A few days later, he was not at his desk. His door was closed. I heard from another team member that he had to take a short break. "Just a few days," they said. "He's fine." Without him, the office felt strange. People worked, but the mood was different. I missed his calm voice and his quiet support. I missed his small reminders like, "You're doing great," or "Thank you for that." During the team meeting, someone asked, "Who will lead the project now?" My heart beat faster. I waited to hear a name. Then the manager said, "Emily can take care of it until Mr. David returns." I was shocked. Me? Lead the project? I looked around. People were watching me. Some smiled. Some just waited. I took a deep breath and said, "Okay, I'll do my best." That night, I could not sleep. I walked around my room. I looked at the files again and again. I was scared. What if I failed? What if I made a big mistake? But then I thought about Mr. David. I thought about his words. "You care." That's rare. I held on to that. The next day, I came early. I made a plan. I wrote a list of goals. I sent messages to the team. I tried to speak clearly. I checked on Anna too. She said, "You're good at this." I worked hard all week. I stayed calm, even when things went wrong. When someone was upset, I listened. When a file was missing, I helped find it. I was tired, but I was also proud. I was not perfect, but I was strong now. One day, Mr. David came back. He walked in during the afternoon. He looked better. He smiled when he saw me. "I heard good things," he said. I smiled back. "We missed you." He sat down at his desk. After some time, he called me into his office. He said, "Thank you for leading the team." I said, "It was not easy." He nodded and said, "But you did it." Then he said something I will never forget. "You are not the same person who came in on the first day. You've grown. And now, others look up to you." I did not know what to say. My eyes felt warm. I looked down and said, "It's because you gave me a chance." He said, "You took the chance. That's the part that matters." The next week, something even bigger happened. The company was opening a new department. They needed someone to help manage the team. Mr. David called me to his office again. He said, "I want you to be part of it." I was quiet for a moment. "Do you think I can do it?" I asked. He looked at me and said, "I know you can." That night, I told my parents. My mother hugged me and said, "I'm proud of you." My father said, "You earned it." At work, I packed my things and moved to the new room. It felt strange at first, but I was ready. I sat at my new desk and took a deep breath. Anna came by and said, "Good luck." I smiled and said, "Thank you." Later, Mr. David walked past. He stopped at the door and said, "You'll do great here." I looked at him and said, "Because you believed in me." He smiled and said, "Now it's your turn to believe in others." I knew he was right. My life had changed, but it did not happen by magic. It happened because one person gave me trust, and I took that trust and grew from it. The new team started small. We had just 5 people. Some were older than me. One was even older than my dad. One girl had just started her first job. I felt a little nervous at first. I had never led a team before. I did not know how to be a leader, but I remembered how Mr. David spoke to me. He never used big words. He always listened. He smiled when you did something right. He gave help without making you feel weak. I wanted to do the same. I tried to start each day with a smile. I walked around the room and said good morning to everyone. At first, they looked surprised, but after a few days, they smiled back. Some even asked how I was doing. I kept things simple. I gave small tasks. I asked questions and listened. I checked if people needed help. I said thank you every day. I learned that small words can make big changes. The older man on the team, Mr. Clark, said, "You're young to be a team leader." I smiled and said, "Yes, but I'm still learning too." He looked at me for a moment, then nodded. "All right then. Let's all learn together." That made me feel good. He did not say it in a mean way. He was just honest. But he gave me a chance. The new girl was named Lucy. She was quiet and did not speak much. She always looked down at her screen. I could see myself in her. I remembered how I used to feel, nervous, lost, and scared of doing something wrong. I didn't want her to feel alone. One day, I walked over and said, "Hi, Lucy. If you have any questions, just ask me. I can help." She looked up and gave a small smile. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was soft, like mine used to be. Later that week, she made a mistake in a file. She sent the wrong numbers to another office. She looked upset. I told her, "It's okay. We all make mistakes. Let's fix it together." We worked on it side by side. It took some time, but we fixed it. I could see her relax after that. She said, "I was so scared. I thought I'd be in trouble." I said, "That's how I felt too. But we learn and grow." The days went by quickly. The team started working better together. I saw people helping each other without being asked. I saw smiles during lunch breaks. One person even brought snacks for the team. I felt proud. I was not just doing the work. I was helping to build something. One day, Mr. David came to visit our floor. He looked around and smiled. "This space feels good," he said. We walked together for a bit. He asked how the team was doing. I told him, "They're helping each other. They work well together." He nodded and said, "That means you're doing your job right." Then he paused and said something I didn't expect. "I'm moving to another office next month." I stopped walking and looked at him. "You're leaving?" I asked. He said, "Yes. It's a new role in another city. I'll be helping a bigger team." My heart felt heavy. Didn't want him to go, but I didn't want to be selfish either. "You'll be great," I said. He smiled. "And so will you. You don't need me here anymore. You've grown into a leader." I wanted to say something, but the words didn't come, so I just nodded. The next few weeks went by fast. Mr. David helped train his replacement. Her name was Sarah. She was kind and smart. She asked lots of questions and wrote notes in a small book. She came to see our team often. I liked her. On Mr. David's last day, we had a small lunch in the break room. Someone brought cake. We all gave him a card. It was full of thank you messages. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up and said, "You helped me grow. You believed in me when no one else did. I'll never forget that." His eyes looked warm, and he smiled. "That means more than you know," he said. After lunch, he walked over and said goodbye. "Keep going, Emily," he said. "You have what it takes." Then he was gone. That evening, I sat at my desk. The room was quiet. I looked at the space he used to stand in. I missed him already, but I was not scared. I felt strong. I knew I could do this. In the next few months, I worked harder than ever. I helped train more new workers. I gave small talks during meetings. I started to share ideas with Sarah, and she listened. She trusted me. just like Mr. David did. Anna was now one of our best team members. One day she stayed after work and said, "I want to grow like you did." I looked at her and smiled. "You will. Just keep trying." I gave her a small task with more responsibility. She did great. Lucy also changed. She asked more questions and even helped others. I watched her teach a new worker how to use the printer. I felt proud. At home, my parents were happy too. My mother said, "You laugh more now." My father said, "You're not that quiet girl anymore." I told them, "Work has changed me." But I knew the truth. It was not just work. It was trust. It was Mr. David. Sometimes I sent him updates by email. "Lucy is doing well," I wrote once. "Anna is ready for more work." He always replied with short but kind words. "Proud of you," he said. "Keep leading." Then one rainy morning, a new woman joined the office. Her name was Grace. She wore a big coat and looked around with wide eyes. She sat at her desk alone. I watched her for a few minutes. She looked just like I had looked, unsure and quiet. I walked over and said, "Hi, I'm Emily. Let me know if you need help." She looked up and gave a small, tired smile. "Thanks," she said. That moment felt important. I had been that girl once. Now, I was someone who others looked to. I helped them grow. I gave them courage. And I believed in them, just like someone once believed in me. We all go through hard times, but stories like this can help us feel seen. Thank you for watching and come back for more real moments.